Hello world. I'm Robin Catling and this is Write On. Join me in my author journey as I delve into the craft of writing, bringing you tools, tips and lessons learned the hard way so you don't have to. Acting out the first act. Acting out the first act is the only way of knowing if your novel opens the right way. There is no single right way to begin a novel, but there are plenty of wrong ones. Breaking down your first act will increase your chances of keeping the reader to Act 2. We are, of course, talking about a 3 or 4 act plot structure in fiction. However you choose to break your plot into story units, a 3-phase beginning, middle and end is about as conventional as you can get. Beginning at the beginning with Act 1, this is approximately the first 25% of your book. Act 1 establishes all of these. The characters, starting ideally with the protagonist. The protagonist's internal and external goals, their wants. The protagonist's internal and external conflicts. The protagonist's misbelief and any flaws that present obstacles to their progress. The world or setting, an indication of tone, style and voice, the genre of the story, and the promises you, as the author, are making to the reader. How insightful. Act 1 will also contain the inciting incident, the event that kick-starts the story, propelling the protagonist from their everyday, ordinary world into the extraordinary adventure. In most conventional story structures, the inciting incident occurs at the 10 to 15% mark. That means you have 10 to 15% of the novel's word count to lay out everything on that list before the adventure begins. You will also see advice that the opening hook should come no later than 5% of the way in. That opening hook is something to get the reader interested and invested in the protagonist's upcoming dilemma or conflict. That's the conventional wisdom. No time like right now. In today's fiction market, it seems everything needs to happen sooner. It's now common for the opening hook to happen in the first chapter, and the inciting incident soon after that. No one has the time or patience anymore to wait around for those 10 to 15% markers. More conventional wisdom tells you not to introduce everything right away, that you have a quarter of the book to lay out all the items in that list. But you have to set out your promises early and point to some progress through Act 1. Under the influence of contemporary social media, the protagonist's day-to-day life gets compressed to a snapshot. No one wants 10 to 15% of ordinary world anymore. The new rule for acts, chapters and scenes is enter late, leave early. That is, get the story moving faster using quick strokes and fill in the details later. Don't hang around longer than necessary. This is at odds with the idea of getting to know the characters and setting over the course of the first act. Certainly you don't want to pad a slow beginning with unnecessary detail. But what amount of detail is unnecessary? How much contrast do you need to show off the mundane domestic and work life before the upheaval of the story's central conflict? Sanderson has a whole session on promises, progress and payoffs. Act 1 is where you make promises about the characters, genre, tone, plot and setting, and you better stay true to those promises. But Act 1 also has to demonstrate some progress toward paying off those promises. It may be through short-term escalation or resolution of conflicts in Act 1. Movement is vital. In application, the content of Act 1 will vary by genre and story type. Raising the curtain. In my fantasy genre, I have it relatively easy. Diving into the action in medias res means I usually open with good guys versus bad guys in a fight scene in the early pages. I introduce my protagonist, their goals, flaws and misbelief right away. I highlight some aspect of the magic system along with a hint of the wider conflict of the story. Act 1. The Sixth Messenger. Using Derek Murphy's plot structure, the opening act of my November novella looks something like this. 1. Really bad day. Introducing my fighting priestess, opposing the bad guys over the mystery child. Erin has doubts, fears, magic, and a poor set of interpersonal skills. 2. Something peculiar. Erin escapes with the boy. The seriousness of her mission and hints of her past force her to suppress her softer side. 3. Grasping at straws. Stuck out in the wilds, Erin finds the boy is a fire mage, not a prophet. The mission is already bust, but the bad guys don't know and won't care. She has little choice but stick to the mission for now. The mission is bound up in faith, something our priestess appears to lack. The midpoint of Act 1 brings the inciting incident. 4. Call to adventure. This is the revelation of the real bad guys, the betrayal by a colleague, and the second action set piece. Erin is up against it now. Her skills and abilities are of little use against the Brotherhood's psychic powers. 5. Head in sand. Erin vows to stick to the mission and get back to the Abbey with the boy. 6. Pull out rug. Erin's arrival at the Abbey brings more detail about her order and her estranged relationship to it. We meet the bulk of the supporting cast for the rest of the story. The Abbess is revealed as a hard taskmaster, bearing down on Erin without compassion. Act 1 concludes with Erin denigrated and downcast, given little praise for the courage and sacrifice she makes for the Order and its mission. I can check every item in the list from the beginning of this post. Protagonist, genre, tone, setting, style, and voice. Let's not forget promises, progress, and some down payments to the payoff. It sets up the break into Act 2 and the first plot point. If the events of Act 1 proved challenging, we can expect Act 2 to get even more difficult. That's all for this time. Thanks for stopping by. You can like and subscribe to the channel, or go to robincatling.info to check out the blog.